Link Up. Yes, sir. Hello? Is this Uptown Link Up?
Yes, it is.
Oh, best program ever.
Alright, so today we're going to be having a chat here on the Uptown Link Up show with two of the PNP outstanding members from Eastern St. Andrew, right? We're having here Mr. Darrington Ferguson, and we also have Miss Patricia Duncan Sutherland, right? We're gonna just have a free chat with them, and so they can tell us what they are about to do in the community, especially if she wins the next election. And so the councillor, Mr. Darrington Ferguson, is in the hot seat today, and so he's going to be telling us what his plans are, what is it that you have done already, and so on and so forth. As we go through, you'll learn a little bit more about Mr. Ferguson. Nice to meet you, Mr. Ferguson.
I must tell you, thanks for having me, and thanks, good evening to your listeners. It is always a pleasure to be home, because I consider Papine Division in extension St. Kingston, St. Andrew my home, because I was born here. I raised here. I went to school, in my secondary school education year, I went to Excelsior, and then I went down to the community college at Exeter Community College. All right, so I mean, all my life I've been in Eastern.
And with the wonderful and most beautiful, I should say.
Thank you.
Mrs.
Yes.
Patricia Duncan Sutherland. Nice to meet you today. Welcome to the Uptown Link Up Show.
Thank you very much. Good to be here.
I'm going to start with you, Mr. Ferguson. You mentioned schooling. Tell us a little bit about your early life in our community or in the constituency.
I was actually born at the University of the West Indies, and and at that time my parents was living at 11 Manley Avenue. All right, my godparents was Mr. and Mrs. Fire, all right, who had all of that premises at 9 Manley Avenue all the way back to Bryce Hill. But we lived by Miss Mighty, who Captain, where Captain Church is today. Miss Mighty and Captain was, I think they were some relatives, so they owned all of that property from Manley Avenue back to Bryce Hill, and my parents was one of the tenants there. My aunt, which is Mrs. Etlin, she married to the NWC Ranger at the time, which was Baba Beckford. That he was the ranger for Constitution Hill and John Mountain. So those were prominent people then. Those are people who, every morning their gleaner have to be left at home. No matter what it is, and the milkman used to leave the milk on the gate. So you get your milk and your gleaner. Those were and that's the angling place. So those were the A days in the life of living in Hermitage, as far as I can remember. We didn't have anything such as violence in those days until the 80s. In the 80s we really started to have a lot of violence in this community. But we were decent, upstanding living people, community people that was bonded together. Later on, as we grew up and we transformed, we became community leaders. I was the first president of Wembley United, that is known to be Colour Yellow Jungle 12.
Yes, so you went to, tell us before you go into that, tell us about your schooling. You went to Augusttown School.
Yes, I went to Augusttown. I attended Augusttown Primary, and then at the end of 5th grade, I went to New Providence, because back then, once your parents saw you have some potential, then they started to look for greener pasture to give you that opportunity. Back in those days, people used to get a quarter scholarship and a half a scholarship, when they take technical entrance, and some in common entrance. Was it common entrance then? Yes, I think it was common entrance then. And therefore, my parents was very concerned about the performance of the Augusttown Primary. So I said, listen to me, if you go to Providence or Mona or Oak Valley, you're sure going to pass. So you know, they went out and they transferred me to
New Providence.
New Providence. And I was the only child that passed in that class.
Yes.
In New Providence. All right, Mrs. Bryce was my class teacher then. I was the only child who passed it, and that particular year, Augustone had about 10 passes. You know, because
they never made such a good choice.
The Orville Jackson, the Paul Dixon, Allison. You know, there was a group of us that was in that cohort, 5th grade, that all of us just went on and did well in high school. You know, and the rest was history. I went to Excelsior, they went to Casey and Woolmers and Calabar, and you know.
Are you a family man?
Very much a family man. You know, my as you know, a lot of my kids are grown now. All right, but I do have a youngster now, which is just 4 years old, and you know, keep me alive.
I take it that you have a huge background where relatives are concerned in the constituency.
Yes, I mean, don't talk about that. Almost everybody and I are related at some point, at some place in the constituency and the division, particularly in the Papin division. You know, I have a lot of brothers and sisters in the division. All right, and you know, my father was one of the outstanding builders and contractors and an A1 mason. I remember when the building up at Cherry Gardens and Russell Heights was going on, my dad was one of those persons that was always in those areas for his craftsmanship. You know, he was a very good builder. You know, and even today, recently, I heard Maurice spoke about it, that the houses that Mr. Six put on their roofs, they don't budge much all the rest of houses. You know, it's a little thing with them. You know, so, you know, I mean, and my brothers and sisters, they grew up, most of them, you know, migrated now. You know, I've lost several brothers in the community, you know, to the hands of violence. You know, and, but my family is closely knitted, and we are really and truly together. We support each other very much because of the life that we actually, because my dad was a family man. No matter how many, who was your mother, yes or no, you all have to bond together because you're a Ferguson.
As you say, your father was an extraordinary builder.
Yes.
He was actually a great builder in building families too as well.
You know, Mr. Six was a dynamic man. You know, he was dynamic. He was, you know, a man who really and truly pulled his thing together in his own way.
Yeah.
You know, he have his own way of doing things. He have his own way of, you know, preparing for things. And you know, he was a great guy. Very much loved by the people of the community.
Yes, Miss Patricia.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about your early life.
Well, so, you know, in the true sense of the word, I would have to say I'm a Jamaican. All right? Born in Kingston, yes, at St. Joseph's Hospital, but grew up between Brownstone, Clarendon, and Maypen. Then went to St. James in Irwin, then went to Mandeville in Mayday, then Williamsfield, then back to Kingston to Garden Town, and Bamboo Avenue right here in the constituency just down the road, and then Haven there. So I would have to say I've lived in many parishes in Jamaica.
What was your schooling like?
Well, it was like every year I had a different experience, a good experience. My mother was started in the bank, and as an operations manager, she would be transferred from place to place to, she was working at Workers Bank at the time, one of the first Jamaican banks, and so she was going through and making sure everything was right within a branch. And so we moved from place to place, but we enjoyed it thoroughly, and we were always all together.
Workers Bank was started by your father, yes?
No. Workers Bank was a government bank. Yes, it came out of the post office banking system, wanting to create a bank that was for the people.
That's was integral into that?
My mother was more an integral part of the development of that. He might have been integral in the party, in the PNP at the time, with the conceptualization of the idea of having a bank that would be more accessible to the wider Jamaica. Yes, my father, because he's D.K. Duncan, politics, his belief he lived for people and believed that Jamaica should could be a better place for most Jamaicans. It was not a good place. Still is not a good place for most Jamaicans, I don't think. We have a good life here, we have fun with each other, but we could have better lives. And yes, we could have better circumstances, you know.
Tell us about your family structure.
Well, so my mother and father met in Canada. They were both away at university. They got married, my mother got pregnant, and she abandoned her university degree. He finished up as a dentist. And in those early days, they were part of the black movement in the Black Power movement, they called it at the time.
Started on the bottom there.
No, Black Power movement actually started in the US.
Okay.
And with Walter Rodney and all those people. But Daddy carried it to Jamaica. And he was the Black Power movement person for Daddy and Mommy actually in St. Anne.
Wait a minute, let me ask you. The Black Power movement that Peter Phillips spoke about.
Yes.
And their leg of it started in 19 done by Brycel there.
No,
Is
so
it
that
the
was,
same?
no, that's not the Black Power, no, that was the 12 tribe.
No, it was
There's
as
Black
he
Power,
said-
there's a Black Power movement and there's 12 tribe.
he said the Black Power transformed into the 12 tribes.
Oh, okay, I didn't know that. Well, so therefore there would have been an arm. So Black Power movement, as I said, was an international movement right across. So Daddy was in St. Anne developing that, and a big part of expanding Black Power movement in Jamaica at the time, in the 60s. Yeah, and so that would have been his start in politics. Out of his work in the Black Power movement, that Michael Mann, they recruited him to be a part of the People's National Party. So it would have been linked to what Peter Phillips would have been a part of, but Peter Phillips would have been a little younger than Daddy, just a little, just a toots. Yes. But so that's where we started. And Daddy is from St. Anne originally, from Brownstown, from Alexandria actually. And so when he came back from university, we all were living in Brownstown. And then we moved from Brownstown. When Mommy left Daddy, because that never worked out. You know, sometimes those things happen in Jamaica, and that wasn't a good thing. And then we went back to Maypen, where she's from. And so that's how that started. So high school for me, though, was Manchester High and St. Hughes. And then from there to university. So while I was at St. Hughes and went to university, I was living at Bamboo Avenue. And part of my stomping ground was Standpipe.
Wow.
Yes. Whereas Mark Golden came to Augustown, I went across the road to Standpipe because he was coming from College Common.
Mark Golden was actually in Hermitage.
Yes.
Different community. You must have get some interest from your father's involvement in politics.
Yes.
But when did you choose to, venture into politics seriously?
It was maybe about 12, 13 years ago that I would have chosen to say I'm going to actively participate in the political, in a real way. Before that, I had helped out with different events, within the party. But my commitment to the People's National Party is based on both my father and mother's basic principles in life. So equality is a big part of who we are growing up, and understanding that we don't exist without community. So if we are successful, we are duty bound to make sure our wider community is also experiencing that success. And you can't live and be blinded to what else is occurring over there. And as Daddy would say, right, Bush said, like, circumstances make you who I am. I'll never forget, he said. So he got a scholarship to go away to university, to go to high school, because when he was growing up, it's one scholarship per parish, right? So him get a scholarship, have to move to St. Mary to get the scholarship from St. Mary. Now, in talking to his friend who got a scholarship from a different parish, I think from Manchester, and his friend was talking about, how because he was bright, and so like, you have to remember, you only get that scholarship, because that is just the day that your belly never hurt you, or whatever it is. It's not because we're better than anybody else. Because everybody given the same opportunity, we would have a different landscape and different creations coming out of Jamaica. So that's what we grew up with. So that's why I came to politics. And why I choose PNP is because we are grounded in our principle of equality and social justice, which really is in keeping with our principles as a family, what we grew up with as a family. And so for me it is critical that I must be able to call on a principle. So because it's many people that make up a political party. So if something is not going based on what I expect it to go, I must be able to ground us to say, listen, that does not line up with the principles of equality and social justice. Those decisions don't make sense in that context. So I have a basis to question it. And it's not a personality thing. It's about what it is we are building in our country.
And so you choose, because of principle, you choose the PNP.
Yes, because they have a stated principle in their constitution.
Nice. What about you, Mr. Ferguson? What prompted your choice to get into politics?
I was always serving from a tender age. And serving became a part of me. I always look forward to how best I can serve the person that I cross the path daily. And this was something from a very tender age. From I went to customs, serving as a custom clerk, always looking for the person who was at the back of the line, who was there sitting down the longest and saying, hey, what is happening? I said, okay, fine, I hear you. So, putting that smile on one's face was always something that I strive for. But looking at it from a political side in my later years, I became a member of the People's National Party in 2007, 2008. Thereabout, and I became very supportive of Patricia Simpson Miller. Yeah. All right. I was never a PJ Patricia fan. I was a PNP, but I was never a PNP, a PJ Patricia fan, and I fell in love with Portia as a woman, and where she was coming from, and she was elevated to the leader of one of the greatest movements in the Eastern Hemisphere. All right, in the Caribbean, Portia stand out, and when she became Prime Minister in her second stint, when she was given that mandate, I mean, it could never be better, because she actually showed the world what Patricia Simpson Miller, where she was coming from, what she stands for, and her principle. All right, and put that together along with the People's National Party principle. It moves you to know that people are at the center of the policy making. Every single thing that happened in that year was about the people. All right, and what was best for the people at that time.
And if I could add, I don't know, just a short part. I mean, when I talk about the principles of the People's National Party, growing up as well, yes, we in a Michael Manley era, and understanding how people's lives were transformed by the policies of that government. The no bastard not there again. A lot of younger people don't understand what that meant. It meant that somebody who was born out of wedlock at the time did not have the right to go to school, to a birth certificate, to basic things in life. Changing that law, as Rex Nettleford from university said, was the smartiness of Jamaica. Expanding the access to education was the smartiness of Jamaica. Creating laws like the maternity leave law, right? And we were forerunners in that, in Jamaica, because it was only much later that the US, and I don't think they have a full maternity leave law now. It's by choice for the company. In Jamaica, it's mandated, and then there was the issue of equal pay for equal work. The union, the role of the union. Lots of people said the union was not always good for Jamaica, but it was a critical part of it, because other than that, then you have the exploitation of the workers. And right now, we're going back to a situation where through contract work, we have some significant exploitation of workers that we have to look at, because we can't build a country if one set of people can't make them life better.
You are into banking.
Yes.
I want to ask you, what is the primary role for a bank when it comes to building community?
Facilitating the movement of money between individuals and between companies and making capital accessible to people. So that's the primary role of banking in an economy. Now, the whole issue of, and I know this has come up now, of fees in banking. Our bank have a different approach to fees, right? So we have a thing we call no nuisance fees, right? So you can't charge a fee for a dormant account. We don't do that because it just doesn't make sense. Because it is dormant, so you're charging the people a fee because they have left their money with you? No. So, and that's a for example. So to an extent, I agree with Jackson that there should be some regulation, maybe not to the full extent that he believes. There's always a middle ground that you need to find. But I do believe that we need to protect people, and if we want to have that kind of financial inclusion, and we have to look at it, right? Because if you have somebody who has a pension of $4,000 every fortnight, right? If you want to take fees out of that for them to access their money, they're not going to put the money in the banking system. They're going to stay with cash. You know what I mean?
How does a bank take on a community for community building? How would your bank do that?
That usually occurs, as in any private sector organization, through a foundation that they have associated with them. So our foundation is the J.M.P. Joan Duncan Foundation, and our focus is on education and entrepreneurship. So inside of education, we've been working with the primary schools, with all of the schools actually, in a thing we call Conversations for Greatness, because we are around how it is that we can shift the attitude and the mindset of the teachers so that they begin to be more positive, have a more positive relationship with our students. So we have a different learning environment for our children. So we've been working on that project in education. And in entrepreneurship, we've been working with the Ministry of Labour and Social Security with the PATH Step to Work program, where we work with them in training people as they begin to develop their entrepreneurial skills and to be able to do financial management as well as in the mindset as well. To be able to, because you know that without the right frame of mind and without the right mindset, you could get a whole heap of money and you still end up poor. Or you could get opportunities and you don't know how to take advantage of them because you don't have a belief in yourself. Because critical to life, which is why my portfolio in the People's National Party is social transformation. Yes.
So you are building with the social.
Yeah, man, and because we have a shift, right? If we are going to change, even when we talk about Hermitage, Augustown, proper, Goldsmith Villa, African Gardens, when you talk about the different communities that make up the greater Augustown community, if we are going to have that transformation, it can't just be about how much road you build. It can't just be about if you have water or not. Those things are required, yes, required infrastructure. But more important is what's going to shift in our community to make sure that violence is not a first choice as a response to situations.
Our constituency, most Jamaicans, most persons in our constituency, they don't know the magnitude of the constituency.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I'm going to ask you, Mr. Ferguson, could you give a layout of your constituency that you serve?
Well, the Papine division, yes. I can give you a layout of the Papine division. I can give you a layout of the constituency.
Yes, go ahead.
Right? The division itself comes from, you see where you have Skyline Drive, right? From the opposite side, Skyline Drive, and you come all the way down, and you come to where you have that turn at Papine Secondary.
You could just make it simpler by just naming the communities.
Okay, the communities are, we hail from Riverview, Tavern, Papine, proper, we take it all at the university, hospital, and the Mona campus, College Common, Elisa Flats, come all the way down, Hermitage, Goldsmith Villa, all the way down to Reserve Road, African Gardens, and back up, staying on the right side of the river.
Okay.
Going up.
So your area that you serve does not include places like Beverly Hills.
No.
No, so that's the wider community,
That
wider
is
constituency.
the constituency.
That would include the Mona divisions. The Mona division now would start down by Jarrett Lane, just below Jarrett Lane and coming up and take into consideration all of Tucker Avenue and all of Tankerville, all of that coming up the road there. Staying on the right hand side with Beverly Hills and coming up and going towards
Hope Pastor.
before you reach the Hope Pastor, you have Standpipe and all of Matilda's Corner area there with Chambers Lane and Airpipe Lane, right? And then you have Wellington Drive, Mona Great House, Mona, going across the Hope Pastures, Highlight View and Land Lease and, Bonaparte Lane and all of those places.
Mudtown and
Right.
Shady Grove and
Yes.
Yes. I know you, Mr. Ferguson, you won the division, the councillor, you won that race, and you're kind of new into the seat, right? But I take it that you must have known the responsibilities of a councillor. Could you tell the people in your area, let's not say constituency, because constituency might represent the wider, but in your area council, could you tell them what your responsibilities are?
Well, the councillor's responsibility is really to stick with the local communities and its needs, and those needs are: one, you need proper street lighting, you need minor water supply, you also would be the forerunner for garbage collection. The KCMC is not responsible to collect the garbage, but we are the advocates, because it is the management of solid waste that actually collect the garbage. That is something we need to really and truly, because we could pound them many times. If the resources that given to them to move, then we the councillors get the bad name that we're not taking up the garbage. But is in real sense, we are the advocates on behalf of the communities through the management solid waste to collect your garbage. We are responsible for your markets and your parks. And again, there's a difference between the markets and the park. The market falls directly on the KCMC, all right, and the parks fall under Parks and Market Management, which is indirectly to the councillor, all right. So therefore, and of course, your entertainment, your permits and all that must come to the KCMC, which is local, all right. So those are the responsibility of your councillor. So
and your local parochial roads.
Yes, local roads, which is not main roads.
Main roads.
All right, main roads are considered where the bus route is. All right, and therefore, we blow the trumpet to get those things done. All right.
So in case there is we have a landslide or we need a retaining wall to build, you wouldn't be in charge of that?
I'm happy you asked that question, because in our post-burial council meeting, Councillor Clue and myself championed the reason why retaining in walls responsibility need to go back with, just like parochial roads, to the local council, because we are faced with these multiple times in the division, and in a division like mine that continue to develop, and the kind of communities and areas that we are building comprise of places that are landslide and need retaining walls to maintain. Even in the last hurricane, we have residents here are suffering from retaining wall. The wall that they had was down, and it's not really their wall, it belonged to someone else, and the person is nowhere to find, and their property now is at risk. All right, and we'll continue to see these things. So these are some of the things that we will be looking at in the short order, all right, and see how best we can, put something in law that will empower us to kind of address those things.
How much work do you have to do when it comes to roads?
Boy, I'm gonna tell you something. I must give thanks for those who, they have taken on a lot, because we have seen some certain amount of roads are done. We still would like to see the completion of that program that has been going for the last 3 years, and therefore, we want to see when it is completed, what is left. We also recently, the government announced sparks, all right, and we would like to see what sparks include too, and we want to see how best we can find additional resource. So those roads that are not included in those programs, we can attend to them.
Yeah, I would say to you, one of the things that, for me, the biggest thing in political representation is communication and people having access to information. I find that right now, that is lacking. So, me coming into a community right here now, and I want to find out what is the state of the social, can't get the information. It's not readily available. There are no regular meetings. There are no regular updates. So there's supposed to be another phase of work. What's going to be included in that work? Who will know? And a big part of the challenge that we have, and I think a big part of what has ravaged these communities in the context of violence and separation is politics.
Yes, and I think...
And we have to take a stand against that.
Okay, before you go into that, when it comes to order, I think proper order can inspire a people to move right, to think right, because they believe that, yes, there is somebody in leadership that assume responsibility and are making sure that these responsibilities are taken care of. The other day, I took the privilege of walking down our famous Eid Hill, right? Go to Bryce Hill. And I didn't like the look of the place, especially on the left going down, where the mirrors on the walls was. Those are nice, but there are some little shops or I would say some of them look rather deplorable. What would you do? Let's say you win the next general election in this constituency, to provide us with the order that is needed for these kind of things too.
So order don't come from a bad manism or heavy hand. Order come from communication. Order come from, so when you see that first shop going up, if you have regular communication, then you can be bringing that community together to meet.
No, they're up already.
No, they're up already. No, you have a different problem. And so it's more important for you to get to have a sit down, not just with the persons who are there, but the persons who live in the space, right? No, there's a reason why a shop goes up, right?
Yes.
Because the economy is not booming, so people can't make money. So the first thing every Jamaican think of when they say, how I can make a little money, make me sell something.
Set up a shop.
We set up a shop, or set up a bar, or we're going to sell some clothes or some shoes, because there is nothing else to be done, right? So if we don't solve that underlying problem, you're going to always have these pop-up shops. But if once it starts popping up now, you have to have a space for them to do it, or you have to say, make us work out something else. I mean, I was just down the other day, down by the end of July Road there. There used to be a plant down there, a factory down there, and it's closed down now for years. And some people use it sometimes, and there's some woodwork in there, but it's not really in use.
That's the community center.
It's supposedly the community center, but it's not really the community center because people don't have access to it. Now, if you don't actively try to create opportunities within the community, and that can't be a thing where you come in and say, okay, see the opportunity here, take it. It has to be a working together, right? and to say, okay, what is the opportunity I want? People always want to find solutions for youth, right? Without talking to the youths. Them say, bring in heart, man. Heart can train them in what? Who knows that they want to be trained in heart, right? Down here in Augustown, maybe what they really want is a big studio. Because enough musicians down here, right? Maybe that's what they really want. Who knows, right? But nobody's having the conversation, and there's no active plan. Right now, there is a plan that was developed many years ago. I think when Andre Hilton was the MP, called the University Town Plan. That we haven't really dusted off, and said what we're going to do and expand it. Now, there's one thing that I realized that it didn't do. It didn't consider, for example, Mona Commons and how to incorporate Mona Commons in the university. Mona Commons is a critical part of the university. Enough doctors live over there, enough students live over there. But we're looking at it as if they say it is a scourge, rather than look at how it is that we can make it into a space that has the amenities it needs and can be attractive. So for me, the whole thing around community development, you have to see the potential in the community first. And you have to believe that the community can be even better than it is. Augustown is rich in history. Augustown have lots. When I see all in the Augustown CDC group, the pride that comes out, there is an innate pride that we are not tapping into. We're not tapping into it.
I take it that in the past, when I was a boy, I born in Augustown, right? In the past, Augustown was well industrialized.
Yes.
Right? And you mentioned factory. But there wasn't just that factory alone.
There were many factories.
There was many factories in Augustown. What's your vision for such a community in 2025?
Well, so what I would say to you is that I don't come to a community with a vision. I come to build a vision with the community. Because I'm very clear.
Yeah.
If I come in here with my ideas, then why flop?
But based on
what I see as the potential. What I see as the potential, I see more of the potential in the context of the music industry. I don't think we've tapped into Augustown's capacity in that space, right? And where we do have the factory spaces to look at how it is we can use. Because there is, for example, woodwork going on out there, but nobody's trying to work out how to get it. I suspect the violence is a lot of what caused a lot of these factories and
imaginary
boundaries down, and imaginary boundaries that we put between each other, you know. So for me, like Izozo, no, should have that as part of them plan now. We should be sitting down at a table now to say what is the economic activity we're going to bring back into Augustown, into this space, into the wider community. But that is not occurring now. And I'm trying to find out when that meeting will happen so I can go there and make that intervention.
I learned about a meeting at the community hand this week with the police and a member of parliament. I just learned about it about 45 minutes ago before I came here.
Okay.
Really?
Yeah, someone told me that they were at a meeting with the community and they just popped up. Mr. Wilson, Kenneth Wilson, just tell them, oh, the MP's on our way. And they were meeting with the police. I mean, since I entered this division, I've been trying to meet with the police because I believe that we need to have that clear line of communication.
Would you like to have a sit down with the MP and the police on the Uptown Link Up show? Would you like to do that?
I'd love that.
Any day.
Any day.
Well, ask them. Look in that camera and ask them.
Yeah, man. So I'm inviting and I am encouraging that I think if we can all sit together, MP Favour Williams, or myself, Darrington, and Venetia Phillips, if she's still the divisional caretaker, I'm not sure what their situation is, but whomever that person is, I think it would be beneficial to the community to see all of us sitting together with the community and having a conversation.
Beautiful.
I do believe that, you know,
Beautiful.
because
you mentioned music, and you know, in the way of building the community, right? We have seen the way how the music was built, the origins of it, right? It started through the sound system.
yes,
And the sound system on the corner,
yes,
right? And the artists, they started in their bathroom.
Yes.
And the parents would say, why you don't go sing on the sound system, make the people in the area?
Yes.
You understand me? And so when I went out and I sang, and the people hear me, then the people approve my song or disapprove
Yeah,
my
man.
song. And that is how the community build a character like an artist like a Little John,
Yeah,
a
man.
Sanchez, a
And
Dennis
all
Brown,
right.
right? And so the main drive was really the sound system. Now before you go into that, now we have something that is called the Noise Abatement Act, right? The Noise Abatement Act kind of cripples the dancehall, it cripples the sound system, and so we don't get to do most of what we used to do.
Well, what I would say to you is that the Noise Abatement Act, as it is written now, does not consider the culture of communities. It doesn't consider the culture of communities.
What would you like to change about it?
I would think that it should allow for a community council that would have agreement to say, for example, it could have an Augustown community council that says
Right, and you have a
Augustown
space.
will designate this space, and that they can have dances on 2 Saturdays a month. And there's agreement with the community. And so therefore you don't kill the culture while you're trying to protect everybody.
And create self-governance.
And then people feel powerful, right? And they would feel empowered because they are part of that decision making. Right? Now, many people in Augustown would have grown up on sound system in Augustown. So sound system is not as an annoyance to them as it might be to people who in Hope Pastures who buy that for the quiet of Hope Pastures. 2 different cultures of 2 different communities. Your laws must consider the culture of your country. You understand? And then on top of that, I'm saying that what would have amplified even the development of the musicians coming out of Augustown, if Augustown had a community studio, then them could have made money off of. Because them have enough big artists come out of Augustown. So then you could attract a lot of even international people to use your studio. If you made a studio that was of international standards in Augustown, then could have seen where Dennis Brown started, then could have seen where this one started, then could, it would become an attraction. So as I said, but that's my idea, right? So, but I wouldn't want to impose my idea on the people of Augustown, right? Because the other part of it that is already naturally progressing in this area is student housing, and people are making a lot of money off of student housing right across this division and some parts of the Mona division. Now, how do we enable the development of that industry? By teaching people what is required, by putting in the minimum standards, helping them to get to that minimum standard, right? So we're creating a safer space. Instead of having a building come up that get 12 rooms that now becomes a fire hazard because you don't have a proper escape route, because man just try to make as much money as possible. When you talk about order comes out of consultation. It can't come out of bad manism.
Can't come out of bad manism. Mr. Ferguson, as you said, you're new to the team. I take it that you're applying yourself as much as possible in your job description, right? Being a councillor, what are some of the obstacles that you face?
I can tell you, first of all, I'm going to talk about the sharing of information. The communities and the citizens you serve, they don't know the information what you as councillor are supposed to do. And therefore you become bombarded and burdened with central government challenges, and you don't have the resource to attend to it. And you know what? You can't tell people no, you have to listen. Because the only reason why they came to you is because they see you as hope. They see you as an answer. And if you just tell someone no, you have to sit back, digest that, and then you have to try and say, listen to me, I'm going to refer this to the Member of Parliament. Right? And therefore, when you don't have a member of parliament that is on the same side, then the people end up suffering because you might send 1,000 messages to the member of parliament and you don't get an answer. And in the true sense of the word of politics in Jamaica, some people will say, well, what did they expect? The MP is not going to answer you. All right, but on the other hand, no, the MP is supposed to answer me because we should work together.
And I would tell you that if I were the MP, right, on the Mona division side, Gary Gordon, I'd work very closely with him. Because I believe that MP and councils have to work closely together. We're serving the same people.
What are some of the obstacles you think Darrington faces?
Well, that's a big one is the fact that Favor doesn't respond. She's very divisive in that way. She's very clear around her party line. And I think we can drop it until it's time for an election. I think we need to look more at the people outside of the election time.
Persons would say that she operates right across the board, as we have seen in the constituency. What say you about that?
I have not seen that. I really have not seen that, but maybe it is that I just don't have that particular piece of information. But my own experience has been there with situations where persons a road is being fixed and fixed right up to a particular house, and then it start fixed again beyond that house because that house belongs to a person who supports the PNP.
How efficient, because how efficient can you really be on the opposition of the ruling party? How efficient can a
councillor be?
Mm-hmm. Talk to me about it.
It is very difficult to be efficient because first and foremost you're not given the latitude and the resource to carry out your natural duties. Secondly, because of the political endurance, you will have the requests, and these are real requests, and they are not taken care of in real lifetime, and therefore it can be a bother. But if you are determined, and when people realize that you're serious, people move. All right, because I'm one who take my responsibilities very serious.
Look in that camera, Mr. Ferguson, and tell your people, what is it that you are responsible for?
The council is responsible for street lights, minor water supply. All right, for example, you won't find the councillor chucking water to you because we are not given that resource. That resource is given to central government. All right, we have parochial road, which is not main road. Main roads are considered a bus route, and those are off road. And of course, the resource we are given each year is, it all depends on the minister, what the minister make available to local government. All right, and therefore, gullies, minor drains and gullies, all right, and those are minor, not major gullies. All right, those are the councillor's responsibility.
What was it like going up against Venetia Phillips?
It was just like another day in the politics. When it comes to the Papine division, and I was no stranger to the Papine division. I've been doing community work all my life in the Papine division. I've been changing people's life long before I came to the political arena. I was always making sure that the youth get the best opportunity that was on any platform for them. I've been supporting their personal life, and so it wasn't difficult. It was even easier to go up against Venetia because in our both election, I was the one who actually managed those elections. All right, and therefore, I know what must be done if we are going to win an election.
What was that little thing that gave you the hedge over Venetia? Because
personality.
She was.
It was personality. By now you will understand that I'm one who is very humble, and I have always, and if you go back to the 50 plus years that I've been around here, people will tell you they have never seen me get upset about anything. I'm always willing to listen.
How confident are you going up against her in the next local government?
Well, you see, when it comes to politics, you plan for the next election immediately after the last election is done. Yeah. So, you must continue your work.
Mm-hmm. And then your work must speak for itself.
Talk to me about your journey in political life.
Mm-hmm.
You started out where? I think it's
Southeast Darrington.
Southeast Darrington.
When I went there, I told them I'd give them 10 years.
Yes.
And I worked with them to build the PNP organization there for the 10 years. The first election that I ran in came close. It was a very well contested election. The second election was the full national swing against the PNP. Yes. And it is it is a strong GLP seat. Actually, it is a traditional GLP seat. It was Alexander Bustamante's seat, H.R.S. seat. So I went there to build the People's National Party organization in that constituency. And then, so I left that constituency after 10 years because I told them I'd work with them for 10 years. And then after that, the party had called for candidates. I went to one constituency. I wasn't successful in that call, running against 3 PNPs. So that's not a lose. That is just which one of us going to go. Yes, and now I am here in Eastern St. Andrew in the context of representational politics.
And so you have never won in any of these contests. And so you're planning to win against Cable Williams.
Exactly so.
In this constituency. How do you plan to do that?
Well, organize, do the work, engage with the people, let them know who we are. It's a different profile of a constituency. It's a different, this is more closely contested. Nobody has ever won this constituency by more than just 200 votes. So it's a different kind of constituency. So I believe that where we are at now and the level of organization, the partnership that I have with Darrington and Carl Little, that will strengthen the PNP position. And, I don't fool myself. In Jamaican politics, it is yes about the person, but more so about the party. Yes, so therefore that's why you have to choose your party and you have to represent well. How the person influences is being a good representative. Because the person can lose it, but they don't win it by themselves. You win it with the party, but you can lose it by yourself.
How far do you want to go into not just the PNP, but in politics in Jamaica? How far do your ambition goes?
You mean in terms of ministerial or anything like that? That's what you're talking about?
Everything.
No, so my reason for me going into politics is actually social transformation, education being my first love. That was my real reason for choosing politics, because I want to make a real difference in there. So in whichever capacity that I can serve that would cause that to occur, I'm going to serve, and I'm going to cause that. So right now I'm a member of the Shadow Cabinet, responsible for social transformation and protection, right? And so once we win in the next election, I expect that I would be in the cabinet and I would serve in that capacity as well.
Are you afraid to say, yes, I'd like to become the leader of the party?
No, because I don't really have that ambition.
You don't have that ambition?
No, because that is a position. It is not really causing, so it's just like even with an MP. So you don't come to the MP position because you want to work, right? You come here because it's a way to serve, right? And a big part of it for me is how we're going to transform even the politics on the ground, right? So for example, back to school this year, we did it differently.
The leader of the party would assist you more to do the things that you want to do.
Yeah, but right now I have a leader of a party,
yes.
Mark Golden.
Yes.
And at this stage in life, I don't have any desire to lead a party. I have a desire to work with the party. You know what I mean? I can't tell you that about that 10 years down the road I might not have a desire, but unlikely I don't think so. Not at my age and stage of life.
So what's your ambition, Mr. Ferguson, when it comes to, how far would you like to go up the chain?
Well, as I said, when I was asked to represent the party in the Papini division, it is something that I never saw coming, because as the saying say, you never find a king in his own kingdom, and therefore, I was elsewhere, doing my social work, doing out there, building my profile, until I was asked. And when I was asked, the first person I conferred with was my mother, who said to me, "Why you coming to ask me? You should have run a long time. It's long time the people is asking for you." So I took that as a blessing, because what I really want to see is my people to be transformed through local governance, and getting them to understand and using local governance to change the present situation.
What have you done since you won?
Well, since I have taken office, I have completed the process of naming the roads in Wolsmerville that I believe is one of the major achievements of this community. I have also continued to engage the community and trying to bring the local government policies to the communities, to letting those leaders understand what we are supposed to be doing by putting our community organization together through SDC and all of that, to get them to work together. So whenever things happen and your street lights are down, your water is not there, we can communicate better. We can get the reason why it's not working, to say to the agency, this is what you need to do. For example, I remember when I was campaigning and I walked in Hermitage was very dark. And then when they tell me the reason why there was no street light, I said, okay, we're going to have to take some time to digest those conversations, and then we have to find a way how we are going to deal
and let me help you and remind you, there's also been at least 10 individuals where you've made representations for them to get assistance with their housing, changing their housing circumstance, whether it be assistance to fix their roof or to fix the actual space that they live in. So you accessing the different programs that local government has, where that will help people. Also with persons with getting access to entrepreneurial grants to start businesses, etc. So it's how you keep that kind of representation going, right? In my ideal world, you shouldn't have to contact your councillor or your MP to get those things, because those things must just come naturally. You should have a space where you can just go and get them. And so therefore it doesn't become a scarce benefit, and it doesn't become a thing where you can say like, well, the MP give me. It becomes a thing where you say, because I have good government, I was able to transform my life in my ideal world, which is why, for example, when we did back to school this year, instead of doing back to school where you have a back to school fair where children come and get a book or a bag, what I did this year was for all primary schools, right, to give every child in all 5 primary schools across the constituency in grade 2 and 4 a book bag, and grades 1, 3, 5 and 6 a little package with some notebooks, pencils, right, and give them a little note of encouragement to say, you're moving on to the next year. So because that way now, it's not whether you're a PNP or JLP that you get. You are a student in this constituency. And if there's going to be a benefit given, it must be given to everybody. And it really takes the politics out of it.
I want to ask you, because you seem very knowledgeable when it comes to the party. Tanisha Phillips, she suddenly switched allegiance early before the local government election. Could you tell us what was the cause of that?
Well, she said she was upset with the party, and it wasn't suddenly just before, because quite a while, a bit before that, because she was on the stage at the JLP conference. So it's a few months well before. She decided she was upset with the party. Clearly, she doesn't think that it aligns with
What
who
was the
she
reason
is.
for that?
I have no idea what her upset was about.
But what did you hear? Because you must have heard something.
One thing I practice as a politician, I don't repeat rules. Don't follow rumors. You understand? So
Is there
I don't work with rumors.
is there any reason? Let me read this the way it was kind, right?
Yes.
Is there any reason, condition, or scenarios, right, that could cause you to switch allegiance to your party?
To the JLP, I don't believe
It doesn't
so.
have to be the JLP.
Eh?
There's another
But
party out there by the name of the
And
UIC.
UIC, no, I don't believe that one. So I wouldn't say to you that there would never be a time when I would step down from active politics. But I do not, based on where I sit, right? We have two major parties in Jamaica. I'm not sure what would get me to want to support the JLP because I don't see any principle that they've espoused.
No.
Right.
It's not about supporting the JLP. It's about in switching allegiance from your party.
All right.
Is there anything
Oh no, well,
that your party
can
could
that's why I say I
do?
could step down from active politics. I could step
So
down
if your
if something,
party do
if the
something-
party was totally going against the I don't know what
Principles.
principle. I don't know what principle they could. What I can think of right now that would say to me like, well, that's it.
And
But
the
there must
people-
be something.
Let's say this constituency vote for you,
Yes.
and the party principle is going AY, right? And you're the one who was voted for.
Mm-hmm.
Would you switch allegiance?
And
to
cross the floor.
maintain- Yes, to maintain your constituency.
Okay, no. Remember I said here there are two things, right?
Voted.
So when people vote in Jamaica, they vote for two reasons. They vote based on the party's principles and they vote for the person. So for me, if I get elected as a representative of the People's National Party, I can't cross the floor to the JLP as a representative. I can't do that. I could step down and then they would be forced to do a by-election if the principles go against my principles. But if people voted for me based on the fact that I was representing the People's National Party, I don't think it is a reasonable principle to cross a floor.
So you're
I don't believe in that. I don't think it's a good thing.
so you wasn't in agreement with the action of Benicia Phillips.
To cross the floor. Yeah. So if you do not want to represent, resign as a councillor. If you don't want to represent the PNP, you are elected on behalf of the PNP. You aren't elected because you are Venetia. You are elected because you are Venetia Phillips representing the PNP.
Yes.
Right?
What say you, Mr. Ferguson?
Well, by now you should know my position. I mean, I am a member of the People's National Party. The People's National Party have a constitution, which have a principle. And therefore, if something must change in our constitution, it has to go to Congress. And it's a democratic process. And everything that we do is aligned with our constitution and our principle. All right? And the PNP is very straight. We are people-centric. Every policy that is developed with the people of the center of it. All right? And if and when that day comes and that changes, then it's my time to leave the political arena.
And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that PNP no make no mistake, and I can't enough mistake make a mistake that if you make. Right? But it is my job when the mistake make as a member of the party to hold them to account within the party and let them fix it. And let us fix it together. Just like, if within your family, if somebody make a mistake with your family, walk out the road and talk to your neighbor and say, boy, say so and so, do so and so, and so and so, do that. You talk to your family member inside. And if them wrong somebody outside, you tell them, all right, come now, you have to go apologize and fix it.
Talk to the young people today.
Yes.
You seem to well knowledgeable about the psyche of what is happening today, especially in the minds of the young people. Look at them and talk to them. Tell them why the PNP is a better party for Jamaica.
As youth, the most important thing is for your hopes and dreams to be able to be realized. You want a government that you can sit with and design your life inside of that, such that when the opportunities are created, they are opportunities that you want, not just a call center opportunity, not just a wholesale job opportunity, but an opportunity that you want to make your life a real success, that you know that you can create your own home with your family and bring up your children. And that can only be done in a partnership, and in a partnership where your voice matters, and in a partnership where you can be a part of designing the solution. So if you want to create that Jamaica where you feel good, where when you leave high school, where you leave university, you can chart your path to success, the PNP is the government to work with you.
What say you on that, myself, Mr. Ferguson?
The proof is in the pudding. Over the last 8 years, the Jamaica Labour Party have shown what they're about. And I'm very, very much, if you do the survey tomorrow morning and come back to me, 90% of the Jamaican youths are upset because they have not received the promise that was made to them up to today. I'm telling you that a PNP-led government will always deliver far more than what is happening to the Jamaican people over the last 8 years.
Give us an idea of how.
One, if you go back and you check the level of transformation that happened in our sports development with our youth between the years 2012 to 2016 and just compare it then. That is why we actually starting to rebuild our Olympic team, because that unearthing of talent was stopped. What used to happen in our Ministry of Sports through in sports, the support to our community, everything have changed. And therefore we need to go back to those grassroots principles and those ideas that was once led and championed. From Michael Manley, we just tweet them a bit and continue. And as I said, I fell in love with Patricia as the leader of the PNP. We need to go back to those core principles, identify our natural talent in our people. The greatest thing any country can do is invest in this people.
And what I can tell you, in the context of social transformation, for me, where we need to move to is family-centered social services. So we need an army of social workers, right? And every family, whether it be one social worker to 50 families or to 100 families, must have a social worker assigned to them to help to guide them through the process. Because it's not individuals that need to be successful, it's families that need to be successful. So now path is done on an individual basis, path to a child, path to a grandmother. If you were treating the whole family, you would have greater success and you'd be able to help them to chat. You see, if you have a partnership with your government, that you can give them feedback and they can help you to access what is available to you. A lot of people don't know what's available to them, and a lot of people don't know what step to work is.
No.
A lot of people don't know that path gives university grants. A lot of people don't know what's available to them. But if you had that kind of partnership where every morning you wake up, back to school time come, you know you can call your social worker and say, tell me now, how we must navigate this crisis here, so now. And you work with your person, and you work towards your success, and you can chart a pathway to make your family be in a better place. Every year, you know, so you get better every year, little by little. Working with your partner, your social worker partner, working with the different agencies.
Yes.
Right? And imagine a Jamaica when you go to a hospital and you sit down on a chair for 3 days. Imagine a Jamaica when you pick them go to school in the morning, them going into an air-conditioned classroom because every school has solar. And every school have enough classroom that no more than 25 children in one space. Imagine a Jamaica where you don't have to worry about your child going home after school, because after school school is extended to 6 o'clock and the social worker is there with them. There's extracurricular activities. There's a shower, them can shower, then get them breakfast and then get them lunch. And when them come home to you, them come home fresh and clean, ready to eat dinner with you and have a conversation with you about how they love you, and you can talk about your dream with your picnic. Imagine that Jamaica. If we work towards that Jamaica, and that Jamaica we want.
Let me go into something with you, because I like talking to you too, right? And Darrington. In our community, some of us are carpenters, tradesmen, and then you have the men who they would call themselves entrepreneur. They are self-employed, right? Some might sell a little marijuana, let's not just say herbs, right? And grabber. And we have realized in the past that the guys who did that, let's say in the 70s and 80s coming up, they was marginalized and been chased down by the police and criminalized.
Yes.
Right? And that little group grows
into bigger criminal
into
group.
bigger criminal.
Because you don't feel like you don't belong.
Because you feel like you don't belong. Let me ask you.
Yeah.
Because these are the corner guys. These are the guys on the corner.
Yes.
When we were young, when Darrington was a boy and going to school, his parents could say when they're going to work to the corner man, make sure so when Darrington come from school, him stay in the yard. And because Darrington afraid of the corner man there, him stay in the yard. You understand me? And if one of the corner man come up and see him do something wrong, him say, where are the boy, and keep things in line. Is there any way in your governance, if you can, you get the chance and the powers to include these corner men in crime fighting, would you do so?
Okay. So that's a tricky one, because the corner man in days gone by has mushroomed into a much bigger operation and has gone deeper because we've gotten more and more violent.
Yes.
So there is, when I used to work with the Ministry of National Security.
Yes.
I believe in the PMI because that was the intervention to help to stem the growth of the gangs. So to pull those corner youth away from the gang structure such that they could get connected into the institutions that could help them to choose and create a different life for themselves.
Let me put it another way.
So the thought that you described though, of the corner man being almost like a keeper of order within the community. Now that is, to me, instead of making it the corner man that is associated with criminality, is how do you create that keeper of order within your community councils and your agreement. Now that's supposed to be what you're supposed to have as your curfew monitors, because when the curfew monitors came about, we did create that at that point. It was Steve down at Tivoli that first created those curfew monitors as a police, right? Now those curfew monitors, right, were supposed to do those kinds of things, but because you're existing in the same space with the gang existing, so the gang doing some bad things, you know, and we can't take that away. I mean, I just listened to a voice note today.
Police do some bad things.
And the police do some bad things. Let me tell you, human beings do bad things, but
I'm asking you to include.
You can't fix it without including them.
Because
my perspective.
It cannot be fixed without their
we can't,
inclusion.
because you can't exclude them from the process.
Exactly.
But maybe the role that you are looking at might not be the same role how they are included. I do not know the full answer of how they are to be included, because for me it would depend on the profile of the community that you are in. So I can't make a blanket statement to say that this is the way that I would include the corner man, because every community have a different culture and profile. Every community have a different culture and profile.
But the bottom line is that they
have to be included. So we, in the whole point of Unite for Change and the whole point of PMI is how you engage them so that they then become a part of the solution. How do they become a part of the solution, though, is another thing. But you also want to give them some other options, right? Like, I never yet meet a youth who is a gunman who want to be a gunman. He would have preferred making life different. He might have glorified it when he was younger, and then when he became a gunman, sir, this life is not nice.
Because what I think,
because afraid every day.
Right. What I think is that because they are not a part of the system.
Exactly.
This is why they are afraid every day. Now,
Yes.
if the system includes them
Yes.
and say, okay, since you like to fire gun, right, I'm going to train you to fire the gun correctly and be a part of my system. And so I have documentation on you, and I can give you orders to move forward. And I believe that.
Well, we can explore that. Listen to me. Let me tell you what I would say to you is that
part of the problem.
for me, in solving the problem, I can't have all the ideas, and you have an idea. We must sit down at a table and talk about it.
Let's move on. because
Yes,
time is
that's
up on us.
but
Time
not
is up on
today.
us.
But generally speaking,
Yes.
is what we must do.
All right, we have 5 communities that we speak about. They call it the Greater Augustine. Some of us really differ, right?
I got that.
Right. Some
Yes.
of us hate to be called.
Be a part of
part
Augustine.
No, we are a part of a collective body of communities, and we love the way it was, right? Instead of to be included into a melting pot of being a part of a greater Augustine. It could be Greater Kingston 7. You understand? So, would you, or I would say, are you inclined to the idea of the independence of each community in such area?
Well, what I don't understand, because I see the discussion going on in the CDC group, is why isn't there a sit down at a table and a conversation about it?
We had a sit down in a meeting the other day. I will share the meeting with you.
And what was the solution?
It has been championed and all. Mr. Ferguson was there.
Okay, right. So for me, like I said, if a community wants an identity, SDC is supposed to be facilitating community development, right? So if they want,
Community affirmative, but before you go on,
yeah,
we have an identity.
no, it wants to be identified in a particular way. Then,
Yeah.
put it in the context of SDC. If you want to be identified in a particular way in the context of SDC,
Yeah.
I'm not sure what would be the reason why they would resist it. I'm not sure what reason they have given to say no, it cannot be. You understand?
Yeah.
In terms of, because it don't change, because you're not saying that you can't have the same social worker as the Augustine area. You're just saying you want to be able to direct your own community development decisions. That's all.
All right.
But I don't know what's stopping you from doing that now, though.
Okay. We'll try. Oh, in closing,
Yes.
I'm going to start with Mr. Ferguson because I know you're going to pick up on Mr. Ferguson, please speak to your constituency, to your people and your council. Speak to the people you represent. Tell them what you want. Tell them what you want to tell them. This is your microphone to speak to them.
What we want to first of all, that every community that I represent in the Papin division, they are important and dear to me. I would love to see that level of community organization in every single community, including the disabled community. We want to see that level of organization where we can come and we can sit down and we can have that conversation that will encompass a direction of development for everyone. That's what I want.
Take it over.
And so, as your representative, I'm looking forward to being your member of parliament, and I come to you with what I call a politics of partnership and love. And as each community develops within the constituency, and in particular Hermitage, Augustine, Goldsmith Villa, Bedward Gardens, although not in the constituency, and that we should, and African Gardens, sorry, that we should be able to really manifest that development that would add to the pride that I already see in this area, in these communities, and that we would work together to, as I hear on the CDC shot all the time, to create enlarging the middle class in these 5 communities. And we can do it. I know that we can do it, and I look forward to bringing all of the youth, the corner youth, those so-called gang members, everybody together. Because when we come together and everybody is included and we are creating solutions for all of us, then we have a real possibility, not just of sustained peace, but sustained development. And even great, everybody going to want to come to visit this area because we have things to show them. We're going to have our music studio, we're going to have our the
Culture
church at
yard.
Bedward, the culture yard. We're going to have the industry, so people going to want to come down here because they get the best employees. University students going to want to live here. It's a place of choice to be if you are a university student. You have space where you can study. All the little parks, you set up some little parks, them can sit down and have them Wi-Fi. No man, this place nice.
We really
we
want
can
to,
make
we
it
really
nice.
want to take that budget to what is spent
Yeah.
on security and spend on our development.
Yes.
That is what we want. The money, the budgetary arena that is spent on the security, both in the GCF and the university, and said we wanted to spend on the development of our people. We want to change
Yeah,
that
man.
culture.
When we don't go and say, ah, you're so nice.
Yes, yes, so nice.
Yes.
And there you have it. We have just concluded a wonderful chat here on the Uptown Link Up Show with two stalwarts. We're going to put it this way, of Eastern St. Andrew, the Papine Division Council, in Mr. Darrington Ferguson, and the wonderful and beautiful, I'm not leaving out the beautiful, Miss Patricia Duncan, Mrs. Patricia Duncan Sutherland. Thank you guys. for
Thank
coming
you.
on the
It was
Uptown Link
really
Up Show.
nice.
It's wonderful.
Yeah, man.
having a
I have to
chat.
go come back.
I like
No, man, what's
Uptown
that?
Link Up. Yes, sir. Hello? Is this Uptown Link Up? Oh, best program ever.